Today, we have been treated to intellectually stimulating presentations delivered with great wit. I'm here to tell you that ends here. Down to business. Today, CBS and Nielsen will be presenting the first results from a major project that I believe represents an unprecedented collaboration between the world's largest media research company and one of its clients. But first, let me provide you with some historical perspective. In the summer of 1992, there was an international conference co-sponsored by the ARF, SMR, and the Japan Marketing Association held in Tokyo. At that conference, I delivered a paper entitled A Multidimensional Approach to Television Program Evaluation from the Advertiser's Perspective. The paper laid out a comprehensive evaluation framework by which marketers could better select the television programs that represented the best advertising vehicles for their products and services. At that time, my paper was mostly conceptual in nature, since the data and statistical resources necessary for the application of this approach largely did not exist. My goal was to stimulate the advertising research industry to develop the tools to make this multidimensional approach a reality. Well, it's taken a little longer than I had hoped for, but we now have those tools. So the future is indeed now. The media selection process has always been a less than perfect process. Its traditional sex and age demographic base has employed these simple measures as surrogates for the consumer value of the audiences to television programs. This has resulted in a less than ideal media planning and buying process. CBS, on our part, has produced a comprehensive and continuous body of research exposing this form of audience currency as essentially invalid, resulting in a misallocation of television advertising investments. We've done so with some limited success. However, as the critical baby boomer segment of the population begins to move beyond the 54-year-old cutoff point in the advertiser age target groups, marketers are finally taking notice. As the baby boomers move out of the advertisers' age-focused sites, new data sources such as set-top boxes and shopper card data banks are giving marketers the tools to develop a much more sophisticated approach to media selection. Recently, this article in the Wall Street Journal addressed the growing movement of marketers to new media measurement metrics. But this is not the only area where a change in marketing practices can affect the revenues of a broadcast network. This slide shows the impact of the 4 critical marketing decisions affecting our bottom line. Starting from the bottom, a 1% change in the percentage of the marketing budget that goes to advertising results in a $220 million change in a network's revenues. A 1% change in the share of the advertising dollars that go to television advertising has a $190 million impact. A 1% change in the allocation of the TV budget between the broadcast networks and the cable networks adds or subtracts another $200 million. And finally, each 1% share of the broadcast network pie is worth another $180 million. The numbers may not be the same. However, most of us in this room today are affected in some way by these 4 marketer decisions. In 2008 and 2009, the networks lost revenues due to the declines in advertising spending. Television actually increased its share of advertising dollars, and the broadcast networks held their own pretty well in the battle with the cable networks for those dollars. Where the networks were hit hard was in the shift of marketing dollars from advertising to promotion, a consistent reaction of marketers in recessionary times. In 2010, we see a turnaround underway. Marketing budgets are expanding again as companies jockey for market position in categories that are beginning to grow. And marketers are moving more and more of this money into advertising, and most specifically, television advertising. This change in the allocation of more of the marketing budget to television advertising has been fueled by the new single-source research efforts which are confirming the superior ROI provided by this marketing tool. While these charts specifically address the situation from the perspective of a broadcast network, they also demonstrate how the process begins with the allocation of marketing dollars to advertising, a decision by the marketer that affects everyone in this room. Our new collaboration with Nielsen was designed to tackle each of these 4 stages in the decision-making process. To do this, we have to address both the short-term role of advertising in generating immediate sales and the longer-term and ultimately more important role of advertising in building long-term brand equity for the product or service being advertised. To develop a comprehensive program to help advertisers optimize their television advertising investment, we asked the Cambridge Group, the stellar marketing consulting company that was recently purchased by Nielsen, to survey Nielsen's full portfolio of research assets to develop an all-encompassing program designed to address this challenge at every level. Specifically, we asked Cambridge to address the following objectives: document the effectiveness of advertising as a marketing tool. Document the effectiveness of television advertising as an advertising medium. Provide advertisers with research resources to measure short-term ROI from their TV advertising campaigns, optimize their television and cross-media campaigns, and measure the long-term contribution of television advertising to the development of brand equity. Now, to address the short-term need to provide advertisers with proof of the return of television advertising investment, Cambridge and CBS turned to the Nielsen Catalina Solutions, a new venture bringing together Nielsen with Catalina, a top developer of consumer databases. Catalina's shopper card database was matched with set-top box television viewing data from the same households to create a single source panel of 375,000 households. Once this was done, we were able to look at the actual short-term sales change brought about by advertising exposure, not only for full campaigns, but by program as well. In all, CBS purchased these data for 20 different product categories, covering health and beauty aids, home care products, pet products, and food products. We have completed the first stage of our analysis for 15 of these product categories. Our first major finding confirms definitively what other less extensive studies have shown us in the past. That is, there is no relationship, none, between the age-specified demographic delivery of a campaign and the sales return generated by that campaign. In other words, age is a poor surrogate for purchase behavior. On the other hand, our early findings strongly support the argument that the delivery of heavy users of the product in the product category has a significant correlation to actual post-exposure purchase behavior. It is this new dimension of television program audience measurement, now available to advertisers for the first time, that is motivating many of them to place more money in the television medium, since they can now document the return on that investment. This chart ranks programs on their concentration of adults 18 to 49 versus their concentration of actual heavy snack households. Only 3 of the heavy snack household concentration programs are also on the adult 18 to 49 list. Yet, many advertisers in this category buy television on the basis of adults 18 to 49. They no longer have to. Now, I've already acknowledged why moving the market away from the adult 18 to 49 demographic audience definition is important to CBS. Let me expand upon that a little and show you why it's important to most of you in this audience. The adult 18 to 49 demo has been declining as a percent of the total adult population since 2002, from 62% to 57%, while the 50-plus segments have been growing. From today through 2016, the adult 18 to 49 segment will continue to decline as a percent of the adult population, from 57% to 55%, and the 50 to 54 segment will also decline from 10% to 9%. The growth will be in 55 to 64-year-olds and the 65-plus segment. Marketers cannot afford to let these 55-plus consumers disappear from their marketing sites. This chart demonstrates the stagnant nature of the trend in the adult 18 to 49 segment of the population. Each year, less and less new consumers have joined this age segment, and from now until 2015, the total population count in this segment will be flat. In contrast, the 50-plus segment of the population will grow substantially, adding over 2 million adults in this category each year as more and more baby boomers cross over the 50 age line. For a marketer to continue to use adults 18 to 49 as the primary target market is to focus his marketing efforts on a smaller and smaller segment of the total market, a segment that will not grow in numbers over the next 5 years while ignoring the vital growing baby boomer 55-plus segment. If marketers are going to get the full value from their television advertising campaigns, then developing the most effective execution of the right message is critical. If their ads are not on target or are poorly executed, then they will obtain less than optimal results from their television advertising campaigns. And that hurts those of us involved in the television advertising business, since it undermines their belief in and continued support of the medium. Therefore, another component of our all-encompassing research effort is to provide advertisers with the tools to measure the effectiveness of their ads. In our collaboration with Nielsen, this element is provided by IAG. IAG measures program engagement and advertising recall every night across all of the broadcast networks, the largest cable networks, and for all major syndicated programs. This chart, based on over 1,300 cases, shows that the recall of advertising is highly correlated with the level of engagement viewers have with the program they are watching. That is, the more engaged the program's viewers, the more likely they are to recall the advertising in the program. Bottom line, it pays to advertise in high engagement programs. And program engagement does vary significantly by program. This chart shows the distribution of IAG program engagement scores by quintile. The range is from under a 50% score at the low end to 85% for the programs in the top quintile. This relationship of advertising recall to program engagement has been demonstrated across a whole array of product categories. Here is an example from a retail store targeting women 18 to 49, plus 23%. Here's another more dramatic example from a snack brand targeting women 25 to 54, plus 30%. And finally, an even more dramatic differential for a soft drink brand targeting total viewers 13 to 49. I have briefly covered two of the three areas addressed by this project: the direct short-term impact of television advertising on a product or service's short-term sales, and the impact of having the right message in the right program environment. The third and most ambitious component of our collaboration with Nielsen addresses the marketer's long-term goal of building brand equity through television advertising. To address this third challenge, we commissioned the Cambridge Group to develop one of their acclaimed demand-driven business models for the television market. I'm now going to turn things over to Kevin Bowen, one of the principals of the Cambridge Group, who will take you through the model. I will then return to talk to you about our plans for the deployment of this model. Kevin?
Thanks, David. Good afternoon. We're going to take you through the start of a journey this afternoon. It's not the end. One might argue it's just about in the middle right now. Before I begin, I want to echo a couple of the points that David just made, because they're going to be themes that are woven through the rest of the discussion this afternoon. The first is that it is absolutely critical that media companies work with their advertising partners to get greater precision around the definition and the ability to target their core prospects, defined not just by demographics, but going beyond to encompass attitudes, psychographics, motivations, and demand characteristics. And what we're going to share with you this afternoon is a media demand landscape that we believe holds the promise of being one of the tools to do that. Number two, programming context matters. Your ad will work harder for you in a more highly engaging programming content. In order to determine on an a priori basis what that content ought to be, you need to have line of sight insight into your core prospect as a media consumer, in addition to as a consumer of your core products and services. Now, as we've dialogued with our clients in growth strategy engagements over the year, there are three themes that come again and again. The first is, this is a very complex and fragmented media world we're living in. How do I make my decisions in terms of how to allocate my media resources between television and digital and beyond? And within TV, how do I allocate my resources between broadcast and cable? We think this is one of the tools that can help to assist in making those decisions. Two is, as I've said, advertisers' core prospects are oftentimes and most oftentimes defined beyond core demographics. It might be the healthier consumer versus the more indulgent consumer. It might be the premium-oriented consumer versus the value-oriented consumer. Or it might be the strong technology-oriented consumer versus the tech-adverse consumer. In a category that's one of my favorites, the beer category, there are a variety of segments that go far beyond demographics. There's the experimenter that actually likes the taste of pleasantly bitter craft-style beer and explores the bejesus out of the category. That's where Sam Adams is anchored, and that's where all of the growth of the craft beer industry has come from. There's also the trendsetters. This is a group that cares more about what's the name on the front of the bottle than what goes in the bottle. This is where Heineken is anchored. It's where Stella Artois is anchored. There is a heavily urban, multicultural group called the Spirers that actually prefers sweeter beers, whether it's the Corona, happens to be imported from Mexico, but you also squeeze a lime in it that cuts the bitterness. It is a more refreshing, less bitter taste. This is the beachhead that has been the foundation of the dramatic success of Bud Light Lime, because it has a more refreshing, sweeter taste, cuts the bitterness. And then, God bless them, there's the mainstream loyalist sitting in the Barca Lounger watching the NCAA, doesn't want a touch of bitterness or a touch of sweetness to touch their palate, because it's all about sessionability, because my drinking situation has to last the 3 hours of the NCAA game. Helping the advertiser define and find those segments is where the rubber hits the road. Thirdly, as David alluded to, there's an emerging belief that program context matters. Advertisers that have their thumb in the pulse of how their advertising is working. Notice this is the same creative can get extremely strong scores in one environment and another environment fall off the table. What we're trying to do here is build the ability to predict where those environments are. We're going to do that by taking a holistic view of the consumer in terms of the prime prospect defined by the advertiser in terms of going beyond demographics by attitudes, motivation, and demand characteristics, but also look at them holistically as media consumers. And how do they overlap? because we believe by that holistic understanding, we will be able to drive both increased ad efficiency by defining the true target-rich environment for that core prospect, and higher ad effectiveness by having engaging content that they are strongly engaged in that will make your ads work harder for you. The result, we believe, will be stronger performing ROI. Now, how did we get there? Very intensive service, 7,000 consumers. We had a double-down effort on the 5 major metropolitan areas so that we could look at the multicultural impact. We had a dramatic profiling of 14,000 plus television viewing occasions to figure out what was watched, but most importantly, why it was watched. We asked a variety of questions about how do you approach media, what's your role between digital and television, what's your technology involvement. We used that to drive segments of consumers that we call demand profit pools. We said, what are the contexts or the situations in which you're consuming media? And we use that to drive need states. And we asked them, what are your favorite shows? And why are the favorite shows? What do they deliver? And we use that to drive what we call program palettes or preferred domains. And those provide the foundations of the landscape. We're also able to work with some of our participating client advertisers to actually use the typing algorithms they use for their core attitudinally defined segments so that we could overlay them on the landscape and say, what are the implications that this holds for buying smarter, buying more efficiently, buying more effectively for your core prospect. Importantly, in the bottom of this page, we had a significant reported media profile, but we also built a linkage into the Nielsen People Meter panel so we can actually get ratings by individual shows, by the individual segments, and we're currently right in the process of appending it to the Nielsen online panel, as well as appending print and radio access. Now, what we did is we clustered consumers in terms of what their belief system was, in terms of their level of involvement with media, their preferred channel alignment, whether it be TV, digital, or beyond, their technological adoption, whether it's leaning in, leaning away, their programming affinity, because we wanted to understand where the go-to programming content resided, and the time shifting and on-demand habits of consumers. What that led to is this demand landscape with to whom going across the top, 6 segments of consumers. I'll go a little deeper in them. I think the names will give you a flavor of who they are. And for what, which is the need states. It goes all the way from the relax and escape, where you're sitting home trying to leave work behind, glass of wine, and you're letting the television wash over you, to the more leaning in occasions of action and suspense, inform and equip, and authentic and aspirational. That's the for what. Over that, we're able to then overlay programming content. Some of the areas in this geography is determined more by who you are, the to whom. Some of it is determined more by what's the situation or what's the need state that you're in. Importantly, the programming content domains, we didn't use predefined genres of content. We asked consumers, as I said earlier, what are your favorite shows, and tell me why. Why are they your favorite shows? What are the benefits you look for, and what are the benefits that they delivered? We'd actually then clustered those benefits to get at 9 distinct programming palettes that we'll share with you a little later. Now, talked about rubber hitting the road. We had the typing algorithms for some of our clients' core prospects, so we're able to say, on this landscape, where are the high indulgent snacking enthusiasts? Where do they live? Where are, in the telecom environment, rather than going after a pure demographic, the really high value customers paying $100 north a month, who are truly vulnerable, who actually express attitudinally that I'm willing to shop, I'm willing to buy. That's where the target is. With 90% plus cell phone penetration, if you want to affect a new customer, you've got to affect a switch. That's the target-rich environment for them. Whether they be, where are those craft beer experimenters versus the badge-conscious drinkers. This is actually relatively where these segments resided on this landscape. Now, importantly, there is a lot of demographic overlap by these segments. But when you look at the viewing habits and profile them by their different demand characteristics, they reside in fundamentally different domains on the landscape with fundamentally different implications for an optimized, at least around the edges, media buy. And we'll get to that in a moment. So I'm gonna take you through a little more depth on the to whom, the 6 segments across the top. On your left, there's the TV companions, which are really strong, and actually the volume of consumption, which is the TV hours right in the middle, goes from heavy on the left to lighter on the right. There's the TV companions that are very much love TV, and effectively it's background noise. It's on in the background, it's always there, it is a part of the family effectively. There's the media trendsetters. These are early adopters of both technology and content. And importantly, what they are is they're social diffusers and forward thinkers. So their impact occurs not only on the impressions that they receive in their living room, but the impact transcends over the water cooler. So these are critically important consumers because of the ripple effect they have. There's, God bless them, the sports enthusiasts. As you might imagine, the guys are anchored here, but not most guys are here. These are the consumers whose day starts and day ends with checking what's happening on sports, and that's where they're anchored. But interestingly, when you look at what's their other palette, what else do they watch when there's nothing, God forbid, of sports on the television, which doesn't happen very often, then it's action-oriented programming. So they carry their orientation for sports over into non-sports content as well. Program passionates are highly involved consumers, have a portfolio of favorite shows. This is where DVR and time shifting comes into play the most of all of the segments, because I gotta see my favorite and I gotta see it on demand. Surfers and streamers, as you might imagine, these are the consumers that are more inclined and most likely to watch downstream content on their television to the extent that it's enabled, or to watch content on their laptop. And even if they're watching TV live, the laptop is open on their lap and they're more likely to be multitasking. And over on the right are the TV moderators, much more likely to be print-oriented, to write. Still 24 hours of television a day, and, but leaning away from the pitch rather than leaning into it. Who are they demographically? As I said, there are tendencies. There's nothing black and white, however. Women skew to the TV companion program passionates, and guys skew to sports enthusiasts, but most guys are outside of sports enthusiasts. The surfers and streamers, sure, they skew young, but only 31% of them are in that age bracket. There's a longer tail that also skews old. So demographic correlates, yes, but mandates and black and whites, no. Strong multicultural contingency in the media trendsetters. You get 39% of that sector being multicultural and being urban anchored. Critically important with how that sector is likely to grow in the coming years. And the more affluent segments, both in the trendsetters, the passionates, and the moderators. Now, what do they watch from a genre standpoint? And you can see there are distinct skews that you might predict, the soaps and the suspense and the TV companions. The media trendsetters, being technophiles, tend to lean into higher tech programmings as well as late night. Sports enthusiasts, hello, in terms of sports. The passionates, this is all about drama, whether it be real drama, defined by the relationship dramas, or reality drama as well. They're leaning into both of those. And the surfers and streamers, God bless them, with the Simpsons of the world, anchored squarely with the adult animation there. TV moderators inform me, that's where my sweet spot is. When you look at the actual content, it really starts to come to life. So this is actually what we were able to get by building into the people meter panels. And you can see the TV companions, some of the smaller programs, the soaps, delivering there. The edgy content delivering against the media trendsetters, the Boardwalk Empire, the Dexters of the world, sports over in our right. Down in the bottom left, it's really about strong relationship dramas, especially continuity dramas where the characters and the relationships carry across episodes. Extremely strong anchors there. And some of the specific shows, as you might predict, the Jersey Shores and the Glees of the world solidly, and Surfers and Streamers. TV moderators about information and self-improvement. So you can start to see where this is going. If you're residing in some part of the landscape, there are very different implications for what your program optimization would be. The other dimension is the need state. So let's take a look at those. The relax and escape, as I said, that's really chill out, lean back, and have the content wash over you. A lot of sitcoms, a lot of adult animation, a very broad portfolio, whatever your palette and your go-to show is there. Authentic and inspirational, more I want to be uplifted. Action and sports, again, highly engaging. This is where both sports and action and orientation, we didn't force any of this, it just came out when I'm in that need state. Family companion, a lot of movies here, as well as children and sitcoms, and inform and equipped, which is the news. And I said also, we wanted to not predefine what the program palettes were. We wanted the consumer to define them for us. So we said, what are your favorite shows? Give us 3 of your favorites, your go-to. If you DVR, you're going to DVR them. What are the characteristics that you look for? What are the characteristics they deliver? And that allowed us to get to nine palettes, mystery and suspense with twists and turns in the plot. We had edgy drama, more gritty, more intense. Relationship drama, this is the continuity of The Good Wife, Grey's Anatomy, etc. Action and competitive, both whether it's just a lot of action, stuff banging together, or whether it's true competition. And actually, you're going to show that sports resides in both of those to some extent, and it's our hypothesis, and we'll determine that competition is all about I care who wins, so I'm leaning into that and I'm more involved. And action is there's nothing good on, so I'm going to watch a game. And it's just watching people bang into each other is what they're interested in. Inspirational reality, 2 types of comedies, the slapstick and the more intelligent writing and informational content. And you can see the likely culprits come to the fore when you look at which programs index higher here in the mystery and suspense, the NCIS, the Mentalist. Edgy drama, it's The Walking Dead, Boardwalk Empire, relationship drama, it's all that, the continuity of Grey's Anatomy and The Good Wife, and action-packed. I said sports kind of appears in both. And the interesting thing in action, if you're really leaning into sports and the sports competition, you're also likely to cross over and watch other reality competitions. The Amazing Race and Survivor tend to appeal to the same palette, which has some cross-promotional opportunities as well. Inspirational reality, this is where American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, Biggest Loser, etc. Very different from the reality shows that are up here in terms of the benefits the consumer's seeking. 2 different types of comedy with the Simpsons and the Family Guy on the right, and Mike and Molly, Big Bang Theory on the left, and informational content. So an extraordinarily rich mosaic that we're able to develop and plot down on top of this landscape and look exactly where genres reside, but importantly where individual programs reside. And we see some very important sweet spots. We see the mystery and suspense being with TV companions. We see strong relationship dramas with the program passionates and surfers and streamers. Sports and competition, the likely culprit there where you would expect. And the news and information really having that anchor with the to whom and the for what, so spreading across depending upon the context that resides. So I'm going to transition now. Okay, that's what we've got as the foundation. So what do we do as advertisers? And the key magic then is to overlay your core prospect on that and figure out what the implications are of that for your informed media buys. And I'm going to show you. This is some of the emerging information. The example on the left is a consumer packaged goods manufacturer. The advertiser on the right is a consumer durable. They have two very distinct segments, both of them, the durable and the consumer packaged goods. And both are important segments. One tends to be a more rational segment. One tends to be a more emotionally driven segment for both of them. You can see demographically, they look very similar, the two consumer packaged goods, the two consumer durables. But when you overlay them on this, they reside on fundamentally different areas and geographies in the demand landscape. Surfers and streamers versus program passionates, and TV moderators and media trendsetters. So if you're going to buy into that core prospect, and they're both important, you don't want to just buy demographics, but you want to be informed, at least around the edges, by who they are as viewers and look at what the media is you want to buy. Now this is, to just put a sharper point on the pencil, this is over on the right. If you're in the telecom business, you get 90% plus penetration, you want to add gross additions to your portfolio, you're looking at A, who's the heavy spender, which is so you identify them as $100 plus, but also a lot of them are loyal. So what you want to do is focus into who are the vulnerable. So this is illustratively of who you might want to target. Well, before you had this, you might be focused on pure adults 49 because it's a subsegment of that, and that's where the focal point is. But when you look at where the high-spend mobile phone vulnerable resides, it has three very distinct places where you'd want to conceivably double down your media investment. That 152 in sports programming, the 131 in news, and the 152 in, there's a 151, I'm sorry, the 131 is in drama and the 152 is in news. Interestingly, in 2 out of those 3 double down spots, the index is below 100 in 1849. So it's effectively going in a counterintuitive direction where pure demographics would help you to go, would show you to go. When we've worked with some advertisers, and this is actually a case in point of, okay, what are the implications of enhancing that media buy around the edges? Over on the right is the advertiser GRP increase for the recommended schedule for their core targets. This is their beachhead, attitudinally defined target. We were able to improve the reach by improve the GRPs by effectively 20%. Now, the one over on the left, it's not actually labeled. This is the pure demographic buy. This is between 18 and 49. It just so happened on this occasion, we didn't lose any eyeballs. We actually increased our broad demographic buy of 18 to 49 by 10%, but importantly, increased our GRP impact against the core target by effectively 20%, by double downing along those areas. Now, as I said earlier, this is a journey. This is where we're going. So this is where we hope to go next. This is, and unfortunately there are some labels that are missing underneath there. The first is ad recall. The second is brand recall. The third lines are key message recall. And the fourth is likability. This is the type of difference we can expect to attain by optimizing and getting effectively a more engaging environment. We can expect to see increases in both ad recall, brand registration, and message recall, and likability. This is critically important to effectively building the brand equity. So where are we now? The vision is to create a system that will empower and allow advertisers to go beyond pure reach to quality reach, to really find target-rich environments for their core prospects to find, built upon demographics perhaps, but going beyond demographics to include attitudes and motivations that are critically important. Secondly, to define those programming content areas that are high engagement. 3 is to define the power of advertising to make impacts to both convert prospects and to build brand equity. This is where it's going to be critically important to look at what does the advertising communication, what traffic does it affect online as a result, and what is the role and relationship between that digital investment in media and the television investment in media, and ultimately to assess return on investment implications for the advertisers. So the immediate next steps are to just do that append I'm talking about of the append the digital and look at the role and the relationship between TV and digital, print, radio, and beyond. Do deep dives with select advertisers to say, so what? What's the implication for your media optimization and for sharpened media buys against those core prospects defined beyond demographics? We're going to explore and hopefully determine that we can predict domains of greater ad effectiveness by a superior understanding of your consumer as a media consumer as well. Assess the role, relationship, and interplay between TV and online, and as appropriate, move forward to test mix shifts in the result. With that, I'll turn it back over to David to take you through a little more.
So some of you are probably now thinking that this just represents another segmentation of the television audience and wondering why it's different from previous segmentation approaches that have preceded it. Let me try and make the case for this model. First, I believe that it is a uniquely comprehensive segmentation of the television market. The process began with a review of our vast store of past research in this area, followed by a series of one-on-one interviews and focus groups at our Television City facility just to design the questionnaire. As Kevin pointed out, the final survey was 45 minutes in length. Kim is now shuddering. And included over 150 different questions related to lifestyle, television viewing activity, use of other media, and experience with entertainment-related technology. Second, this survey also included a battery of questions about all forms of experimentation with and use of the new media options just now emerging on the media landscape. Our goal now is to convince our clients that this represents a far better framework upon which to develop television advertising campaigns than the current age-sex-based segmentation approach. By using Fusion, Nielsen is able to ascribe membership in a demand pool segment to each member of the Nielsen People Meter sample. They are then able to model ratings for each program by segment. In other words, our advertisers will be able to get ratings by segment for each of the 6 segments currently from their Nielsen software. Here's how we use the approach to rank the programs by demand pool segment. We first isolated all of the programs, excluding sports programs, that delivered more than a 1 rating with a specific demand pool. We ranked all the programs by index and then chose the 40% of the programs with the highest indices in this pool segment. This reflects the concentration of viewers from that segment in the audience for each program. We then ranked these high concentration programs by the actual rating they delivered for the pool segment, their reach or coverage within the segment. This slide shows you the top 25 programs by segment for the first 3 segments: program passionates, surfers and streamers, and TV moderators. And for the second 3, TV companions, media trendsetters, sports enthusiasts. Different programs, different rankings, but all essentially concentrated in these categories. The concentration index assures that the program provides the advertiser with efficiency against each segment, while the application of this concentration index against the total viewer base for each program assures the advertiser that this efficiency is not coming at the expense of overall coverage of the segment, the all-important reach dimension. That completes the outline of our program, built upon single source measurement to provide advertisers with the short-term ROI accounting that they require, program engagement and advertising message effectiveness measures to assure advertisers that they have the right message presented in the right context, and a comprehensive lifestyle and media usage segmentation framework within which to build the most productive advertising campaigns. But we are just beginning. In the open source spirit of the era, the segmentation framework presented today is now available to all Nielsen clients through the NPower analytical tool, as well as through use of the client's own proprietary audience measurement tools. We think that we've developed a comprehensive framework, but we encourage and welcome your enhancements. Our goal is to see that this framework develops into a full dynamic segmentation model for use in the planning and execution of advertising campaigns. We believe that this demand pool approach defines television program audiences in a way that allows advertisers to better target their advertising message, but also helps them fine-tune those messages so that they resonate with the viewers of the programs within which they are placed. On our part, we are well into the process of conducting several experiments with advertiser partners. We also have commissioned Nielsen to take the next step by adding the critical cross-media dimension through its internet and convergence panels. We hope to develop analytical procedures to add radio and outdoor media, radio, print, and outdoor media as well. And we've oversampled the top markets in order to apply this approach on a local level. Those of us gathered here today at this historic ARF conference include buyers and sellers of media, as well as buyers and sellers of advertising research. We may not agree on everything presented at this conference, but I believe that we all do believe in the power of advertising. In the past, that power has been questioned. We have seen advertising investments curtailed during economically challenging times. However, the pattern was different with this recession. For the first time, we had the tools to respond to those seeking to cut advertising investments. We were able to document the short and long-term value of advertising and downside risk of cutting back investments in this critical component of the marketing mix. As a result, as we saw in the earlier slides on marketing investments, marketers quickly reversed course and began increasing their advertising investments even before the recovery was really underway. The ARF played a vital role in getting the message out with conferences and publications presenting research on the efficacy of advertising as a marketing tool. The joint initiative from CBS and Nielsen that we presented today is designed to keep that momentum going. The 75th anniversary of the ARF seemed to be a natural venue in which to unveil this initiative. And we hope to work with all of you to refine and enhance our research through the invaluable forum provided by the ARF. This is truly a historic conference for the ARF, not just in terms of its record attendance, but in terms of the increased relevance of the ARF that led to that record. Hopefully, when the ARF celebrates its 100th anniversary, and God willing, I am wheeled out of my nursing home to attend, this week's conference will be cited as a key event in the history of the ARF and a turning point in the advancement of the advertising research discipline. Thank you all for letting us be a small part of this great event.